Welcome to another episode of Between Two Succulents. This week we have Rob from Truth is in the Air podcast live from Old Major. Now, here's your host, the friendly neighborhood bookseller, Brandon Rashad Butts.
What's up, book family? Welcome to our first live in person, Between Two Succulents. It feels so good to be here with y'all. I'm enjoying this so much. I've enjoyed being the host of this amazing show for the past few months, reading all of your comments while you watch this digitally, engaging with you while you watch this digitally, being a part of all the conversations with you digitally. All shout out to you, Heather Kangas. Thank you so much. All right, but we are going to have another great show for you here, of course, as always. And as always, we've got an excellent guest here on the show today. Let me tell you a little bit about him. Our guest today is a Baltimorean boss interviewer, host of the podcast, The Truth in This Art, where he speaks with business owners, artists, musicians, chefs, educators, politicians, and everyone that is responsible for making this beautiful city that we love called Baltimore culturally rich. When he's not making episodes of his podcast, he's writing poetry, painting, and probably finding the next best pair of dapper glasses to wear. Everyone help me welcome to the show, Mr. Rob Lee. Rob!
Yeah!
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, man. It's awesome to have you here with us today. So, guys, let me tell you, The Truth in This Art is a podcast where Rob here takes pride in the city that he was born and raised in and wants to highlight all of the different ways that prevent us from getting bogged down by the more malign reputation that's been cast upon Baltimoreans and things like that. Baltimore is much more than The Wire, and this podcast is a great piece of evidence of that. And I'm excited to be sitting here talking with Rob about it today. So before we get going into all of that, you might have heard that episode that Davin and I did with Rob on his podcast. It was awesome. But we're going to, of course, flip the script this time around, and we're going to get to know Rob a little bit more. And our first segment, you know it, you love it. It's my personal favorite. It's called Aw Sucks. So, Rob, here's how this is going to work.
All right.
We're going to describe to you two succulents. Those are going to be our VIP succulents of this week. And you're going to tell us which one that you would probably have a whole 45-minute podcast about.
Okay.
All righty. You ready for it?
Sure.
Cool. All right. I'm going to get my Vanna White on. And, of course, our lucky, trusty, trustful producer, Joe, is going to read off the descriptions. Joe, who are our lucky succulents for this day?
Yeah, sorry about that, Brandon. Joe was just pulling focus for a second.
Of course.
All right. Well, today we have two of our favorite succulents of the year. First, we have the Pepperoni pincushion plant. Now, the Pepperoni pincushion is known for its hardiness and its ability to withstand low light and low levels of water. It has its namesake also happens to be the fairies washboard. Because it slightly resembles something that you may or may not wash fairies' clothes with. The next, I'm so stupid. The next plant we have is the inch plant, known as the Tradiscantia Zebrina. Native to southern Mexico and Guatemala, it's an eye-catching perennial, valued for its striped green and white leaves and purple undersides. And those are what we have. Rob, what are you feeling today?
I'm going to go with number one, the first one. That is the Pepperoni. What was the name of that one?
The Pepperonia.
Pepperonia.
Pincushion Pepperonia.
Or the fairies washboard.
Yes.
Yeah, slash.
But pepperoni is an acceptable pronoun for it. We definitely accept that. So, way to go! Woohoo!
Yeah,
Fairies washboard. You can hold that if you want to.
Thank you. It's like a new
Awesome.
friend.
Yeah, new friend. Exactly. Awesome. Cool. All right, guys, let's get into this podcast. This one truly has become one of my favorites over the last few months of this crazy time that we call the pandemic. You know, it's definitely helped me get to know a place that, you know, I feel like I'm an honorary member of, Baltimore at this point. You know, I love it for sure. So I just wanted to go ahead and take the time to ask you a bit about your podcast journey.
Sure.
Because the thing is like you have over a decade's worth of experience in the podcast sphere. So just, tell us a little bit about like what that's been like for you and the journey.
Yeah. So the journey for me, it started off talking about sports, which I don't talk about at all. I actually shy away from it. But it started off with me complaining about a signing during free agency in the NFL. And it was Albert Hainsworth being signed by the Washington team. And I just remember I was just like, I'm fat. I can take up space. Where's my money? $90 million contract. Literally what I said. And it turned into me ranting for 5 minutes and just about that. And it kind of turned into me having an interest about what was going on in the news week to week, whether it be like, look back at 2009 when I got started. You had Tiger Woods being a hot boy and getting into trouble upside his head. You had Michael Jackson's death. You had a lot of different big news stories. So these were things that I would cover and just like, this is my take on it. This is kind of trying to elicit humor out of some of the top news stories. And then I got a little bit more further into the weirder, the odd news stories, the ones that people aren't really talking about. So my focus became kind of that, the weirder news stories, but also pop culture. And that was what my sweet spot was for, let's say, 10 of those years. And over the last like 2, almost 3, I still do that podcast, Mastermind Team's Robcast, but I've started doing one that was really dedicated to pop culture. And it's a movie review podcast called Let's Watch It Again. And I review like movies that are in anniversary years. So when that podcast started, I was like, I need to do something Baltimore centric, a love letter to back to Baltimore. And this happened to be in that summer of 2019 when the Dorito, the Cheeto, whatever, was talking very spicy about Baltimore. And I was like, I'll be damned, not again. And I had to say my piece. And that became the podcast that I'm doing now. I spend a lot of my time doing The Truth in Its Art. And really, just getting tight with people kind of bagging on the city and talking ill of the city. So instead of getting mad and having the high blood pressure black guy disease, I was like, let's disprove it. Let's show that you're ignorant and you have a bias. And I want to show you the people. I don't care about the streets, the buildings, the landmarks. They have their place. I care about the people. When I hear people talking about Baltimore, I hear them talking about the people.
That's definitely, that's definitely, I felt instantly connected to Baltimore when I moved here 5-6 years ago or whatever for the first time. Like within a week, I felt like I had a community of people just surrounding the arts and culture space. And to that point, the thing is, it's like your podcast really highlights how Baltimore is not just like in tune with arts and culture, but it is actually a hub. Like it is a place to come and indulge in arts and culture. So I'm curious, like, what do you feel like are kind of the key ingredients of that recipe of what it takes to actually make a place like the center of something that is really definitive? You talk arts and culture, then you talk humanities, you talk politics, science, that's one of the big kind of subjects. So like, what does it take to like come into that space?
With modesty, it takes me to no. I'm just speaking from ego. No, I think it takes diversity. I think it takes like a focus there, and I think it takes really a DIY approach, and that's the real big thing here. DIY, also authenticity. I think the 2 biggest things in Baltimore is probably authenticity, and then right after is being DIY. There's not a lot of resources that float around here, so what necessity is the mother of invention. So we figure out ways to do it. And with that authenticity, we know what's good. We have discerning taste. It's like, nope, that's whack. Or you're not doing that quite right. But also kind of as you touched on, we're welcoming here and there is that sense of community. So it's like those 3 things are running concurrently and they can filter out people who are kind of faking the funk, if you will. And I think people will come here and they kind of make their bones here. They say if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Baltimore's usually left out of that conversation, but I think people will come here and perform. People will come here and do movies and all of that different stuff, but the credit often isn't there, but that maybe artistic or social capital is there. It's like, I got on in Baltimore. People notice me in Baltimore. And it's in this very advantageous spot where you can have people from New York, Philly, and come up from DC, that it leads to that melting pot and leads to that diversity and this diversity of like ideas.
Yeah.
So I think having those different things here just leads to creation and cultivation.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a city with a good art scene really needs.
Yeah.
Really what we have.
What we have. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. No, yeah. And so it's like, so it's cool because like, you know, it's kind of a note of what we have now. But at the same time, you are like Baltimore, like through like born and raised Baltimore. Yeah. So it's like, you know, at this point, you can say you've probably seen some things, right?
I've seen a few things.
Some things, yeah. So what would you say is like possibly the greatest area of growth in the arts community here in Baltimore?
I think there are a lot more like photographers that are there that are getting more attention, a lot more visual artists that are here in that growth. And I think there is this sense that Baltimore is, look, we're not letting you just, you know, kind of sweep us to the side.
Yeah.
Erasure. I think with documentaries coming out like Dark City, Baltimore, and just people being seen like outside of here. It's like, oh, that came from Baltimore. Oh, you see that song? That sampled a Baltimore club song.
Yeah.
And really being on that instead of feeling like we're happy to be in the room.
Yeah.
We're happy to be acknowledged. Well, we're happy that we got put on a little bit.
Yeah.
I think we're like speaking out and saying, look, you know, this is ours. Come in here and see the full thing.
We can put you on.
Yeah, we can put you on.
Yeah,
Come here and get some of this.
No, I mean, listen, that's a fact. That's a fact. And you listen, I came back. Let it be known, I came back. All right. So thank you. Thanks a lot, Rob. So you know, you created, like you said, a podcast that truly is a love letter to this city. And you know it through and through. And I think that's why you're going to be a great person to take on our next segment that we like to call the Lightning Round.
Oh, gosh. Maybe in the future, Robbie can help us with our live sound effects.
So here's how this goes. We're going to ask you, I have a few questions that I'm going to ask you, but then this is also open to our audience, both over live and out here with us today. We're going to ask a couple of questions, and we just want to get to know rapid fire what your first thing, your gut instinct is, and then just to get to know you a little bit more. And we want to have fun with this next portion.
Okay.
Sound good?
I'm an open book. Let's do it.
All righty, let's do it. So first question. What do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions about Baltimore?
That it's not as black as it is. That's the thing that's left out. It's 66% black, and you know, I love John Waters stuff, but that's all you thought was going on here for a long time. Yeah.
Speak on it.
You gotta be real, you know.
Yes, I love it. I'll go ahead and ask another question. What advice would you say that you would give to someone who just touched down in Baltimore for the first time? Find an area, like don't stay on that beaten path. Yeah.
You know, like a lot of people will go to the kind of touristy area and trying to say, I'm gonna put my flag down here, but you're not discovering anything new.
Yeah.
You know, like stretch out a little bit or what have you, and then kind of stretch out further and further. Do it slow to take in these things. So if you come in here, let's say off the train, off the bus, if you get off the train, go to Station North, check that out, but then extend a little bit, go a little bit north, go a little bit south, and kind of increase that footprint to get a better idea of the city. Because there's a lot of hidden gems, like even where we're recording right now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've lived in Baltimore for about 2.5 years, and then I went away and then came back here, and I've been here less than a year at this point. But this is my first time in the pocket of Old Major. So shout out to Old Major. This is where we are here shooting for the day. Thank you so much to the host, Candace, and everybody else at the team, staff, the bar, everybody. Thank you so much. It's a great place, honestly. Y'all should come back here. Y'all should come here. It's dope. Joe, do we have a question from the audience or anybody at all? Or?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, we got audience cover. Cool.
Yeah, I can ask you a question. I guess, what are your top 5 favorite? I guess I have 2 questions. What are your top 5 favorite like films or TV shows that center on Baltimore?
That's a tough one.
Would recommend to people that are like just interested. They don't want to visit. They just want to get like a vibe of what Baltimore is through pop culture and through the media. Like, what would you recommend? Not The Wire, though.
So top 5, okay.
That's great.
Top 5. The question was top 5 recommendations in the media space that depict a really good, accurate landscape of Baltimore?
That's hard because there's not many.
Yeah.
But I think there are films that come to mind, the TV shows that come to mind that are filmed in Baltimore, but say, oh, that's DC.
DC, right?
So
Yeah.
I'm going to frame it with that
County,
context.
you know.
So this is a little self-serving. I'm actually reviewing this movie soon, but Meteor Man from 1993. Yeah. Robert Townsend, superhero movie.
Not Sam. David Allen Greer, right?
That's Blank Man.
That's Blank Man.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
Blank Man. Never mind.
That came out a year later.
Close.
Let's see. Head of State.
Oh yeah.
Part of it is filmed at the Senator. So you have a Chris Rock movie that's happening here.
Yeah.
Homicide: Life on the Street.
Mm-hmm.
Rock.
Yeah.
That's early. I got one left, right?
Yeah. One more.
Now this one is a good one because if you've been around Mom Dom, it'll make you laugh. It's this movie called Love. It stars Common as a hitman, and it has
Common as a hitman.
Yeah, it has Charles S. Dutton in it, who's in Rock. So you have that connection. Yeah. But he's running from like the reservoir over there, Drill Park. It's like he's running way too long.
Oh god!
and you have those moments of like Baltimore. That's not that far. Like, come on, I know the regionality here.
Exactly. Cool.
So those are what I would suggest to give you an idea, especially with Rock and Meteor Man. Is showing like Baltimore in like 30 years ago. And then like Homicide: Life on the Street, kind of in the same way. Learning Uncle Vincent Love, that's probably about 6 years old, but you definitely get aspects of the accent and some of those different things. But with my restriction of not being in The Wire, it gives you a little bit of that Wire in there.
Boom. There you go.
Perfect. And then I guess my other question is like it's pretty broad. I just wonder like what you think about Mayor Scott and like how he's like handling everything with his, mayor position.
Real deal question about what are your thoughts on Mayor Scott? Yeah.
As I say this, I know my taxes and my property taxes are going to go up now.
Same.
I'll say that it's a tough job here. I think there are foundational things that are being worked on here, and I look at it as his mind and his heart are in the right place, but I think that there are a lot of things, media for one, that are kind of in the way. Like I hate watching the news for an example, where when you watch, let's say 45, like Sinclair Broadcasting, everything is just a hot take that's out of context about, oh, Brandon Scott evading questions and so on. And it's just like, look, I see certain things that are improvements, like because I do data in my day job, right? So I remember the recycling components going out and that being done by a whole data plan. It's like, oh, this area is not near recycling. So we have a trash problem in East Baltimore. A lot of this boxes and paper. Recycling, that's going to go out first. And I think the trauma and the informed trauma like legislation that's out there, that was something that Elijah Cummings was working on, and him and Zeke Cohen kind of moved that along and had that as like actual legislation. But then there are other things that have been in this city. You can't ignore the murders and the crime or what have you. Yeah. But I think once you go down into those numbers a little bit, 86% of those numbers of we're hitting over 300 every year is gun violence. So it's like that focus has to be there. So it's like a laundry list of things to do. But I think some of that low hanging fruit has shown that he's looking in the right way, but I think there's a lot of things that are kind of in the way that's preventing really large, substantial change. Yeah. Hope that answered the question.
It did. Yeah, thank you.
That was a very thoughtful response.
Thank you.
I mean, and with that, Rob, you are our lightning round champ. You asked awesome questions. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here and participating in our lightning rounds. Before we let you go and go back to our games portion of the evening, what is up next for you? Are we taking the girlfriend on a getaway to Italy? Are we staying at home with a bottle of wine? What's next?
Because it's Baltimore, we're going to Little Italy.
Hey!
What's up, Nancy Pelosi?
Oh, I miss you. No, it's it's just gonna be like chill. So my birthday's coming up next month, so
Hey,
we're gonna probably do something really cool. We're gonna go to New Orleans. Aquarius.
Okay.
Cusp.
Okay.
Jan 20.
You're a cuspy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gang.
Cool.
But yeah. So yeah, it's probably gonna be something like that, something fun. In that kind of space, do something really chill
Nice.
in January. And just kind of check out the local places. I mean, I know we have Amarion out here, the variant, dancing on our health. But hold on, no. Okay, Unicron, does that work? Transformers reference. But no,
Megatron, right? Megatron.
But yeah, just trying to do cool things and be involved. I always find new places to go to, and this is on the list. I'll eventually have to take her here as well.
Yeah,
So Old Major,
definitely.
yeah.
No, yeah, I'll definitely be back again. That's Old Major that we're here for. Thank you again to everybody at Old Major. Appreciate you. While we have you, do you have anything that you wanted to promote or shout out? Organizations, causes, projects, anything?
Yeah, totally. Definitely like, share, subscribe. Truth in This Art. Let's watch it again. Mastermind Teams Broadcast. Those are the three things that I'm working on regularly. A lot of good work. A lot of good conversations. The other two are funnier, but the one, Truth in This Art, has a special place in my heart. And shout out Creative Nomads. I'm on the board for Creative Nomads, and they're about like enriching the arts community here. And it was a very privileged opportunity to be on that board. And shout out to Kanisha Daughtry, who's the executive director there.
Nice.
So
nice. Yeah. Shout out to Kanisha. Yeah, I know. That sounds. I have to follow it back up. I do. So yeah, everybody. Rob Lee is the host and creator of the Truth in This podcast, the podcast where he gets the chance to show off his city with all the love that he has for it. And we have been guests on that episode. He's also a friend of the shop here at Charm City Books. We hope that you support his show. Listen to it wherever you listen to any of your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, they're on everything. And then stop by and see us at the shop afterwards. Thank you so much for being here, everyone, here today. We really appreciate your time. Rob, thank you so much for joining me. It's been real cool. And thank y'all all for being out here and braving the wilds of this Omarion variant or whatnot. We're looking forward to continuing Between Two Succulents yet again in the year 2022. Don't know how you made it. Don't know how I made it, but I'm glad that we all did through this wild time that we call 2021. Looking forward to picking things back up in the next year. Until then, stay safe, get vaccinated, a booster as well. Stay masked up and love each other and take care of each other. We'll see you in the next year. Take care, everyone.
Yeah. All right, that's the last Between Two Succulents for 2020.